Imagine a world of sweeping deserts, a vast and unforgiving landscape. This is the Arabian Peninsula in the year 570 CE. For centuries, its people, organized into nomadic tribes, have navigated these sands with their camels, their lives dictated by the search for water and pasture. Their society is a complex tapestry of allegiances, traditions, and rivalries. At the heart of this world lies the city of Mecca. It's not just an oasis, it's a vibrant hub of commerce, a crossroads where caravan routes from Africa, Asia, and the Mediterranean converge. Merchants trade in spices, silks, and perfumes, filling the bustling markets with a symphony of languages and cultures. Central to Mecca's identity is the Kaaba, an ancient, cube-shaped structure. At this time, it is a shrine filled with idols, drawing pilgrims from across the peninsula who worship a multitude of gods and goddesses. The air is thick with the scent of incense and the sound of rituals. Life is governed by tribal law, poetry is the highest form of art, and honor is a man's most prized possession. It's a world teetering on the edge of a profound transformation. A world waiting for a message that would not just unite its people, but also reshape the course of human history. In this city, in this very year, a child was born who would grow up to be the Prophet Muhammad. The year is 610 CE. Muhammad, now a man of 40, often retreats to the caves in the mountains surrounding Mecca for solitude and contemplation. It is during one of these retreats, in the cave of Hira, that he receives his first revelation. This is the beginning of a divine message that will continue for over 2 decades, a message of monotheism, of the singular, all-powerful God, Allah. At first, his message is met with skepticism and hostility from Mecca's powerful elite, whose wealth and status are tied to the polytheistic worship at the Kaaba. Muhammad and his small band of followers face persecution, ridicule, and violence. They are a community bound not by blood, but by a shared, revolutionary faith, Islam, which means submission to the will of God. This new faith calls for social justice, compassion for the poor and orphaned, and the equality of all believers before God. In 622 CE, facing increasing danger, Muhammad and his followers migrate from Mecca to the city of Yathrib, an event known as the Hijra. The city welcomes them, and its name is changed to Medina, the city of the Prophet. This migration marks a turning point. It is here in Medina that the first Islamic community state is formed. A constitution is drawn up, creating a society where different tribes and religious groups, including Jewish communities, coexist under a unified leadership. We see the construction of the first mosque, a simple structure that serves as a center for prayer, community gatherings, and governance. The next few years are marked by a series of battles between the nascent Muslim community in Medina and the powerful Quraysh tribe of Mecca. These are not just clashes for survival, but conflicts that will define the future of the Arabian Peninsula. Using innovative tactics learned in the harsh desert environment, the smaller Muslim forces achieve a series of crucial victories. Finally, in 630 CE, Muhammad returns to Mecca, not as a conqueror seeking revenge, but as a leader offering amnesty. He enters the city peacefully, and the idols within the Kaaba are cleared, rededicating the ancient house of worship to the one God, just as Abraham had centuries before. In an astonishingly short time, the warring tribes of Arabia begin to unite under the banner of Islam. By the time of the Prophet's death in 632 CE, the new faith has brought unprecedented unity to a once divided land. With the Prophet's passing, the Muslim community faces its first major crisis: who will lead? The choice falls to Abu Bakr, a close companion of Muhammad, who becomes the first caliph, or successor. This marks the beginning of the Rashidun, a period often referred to as the era of the rightly guided caliphs. Abu Bakr, followed by Umar Uthman, and finally Ali, would oversee one of the most rapid and astonishing expansions in history. Animated maps help us visualize this incredible movement. From the heart of Arabia, Muslim armies surge outwards. To the north, they confront the 2 superpowers of the age, the Byzantine Empire and the Sasanian Persian Empire. These ancient empires, exhausted by centuries of warfare against each other, are unprepared for the speed and zeal of the Arab forces. Within a decade, the Levant, modern-day Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine falls, to the Caliph. The historic city of Jerusalem surrenders peacefully to Caliph Umar in 637 CE. To the east, the mighty Sasanian Empire, which had endured for over 400 years, crumbles with shocking speed. A series of decisive battles shatters the Persian military, and by 651 CE, the entire empire is absorbed into the growing Islamic State. Simultaneously, another Arab army pushes west into Egypt, the breadbasket of the Byzantine Empire. Alexandria, a jewel of the Mediterranean world, is captured in 641 CE. The expansion continues across North Africa, with armies moving like a tide across the desert coast. This wasn't just a military conquest, it was the spread of a new civilization, carrying with it the Arabic language and the Islamic faith. However, this period of incredible unity was not without its internal strains. Following the death of the third Caliph Uthman, deep-seated political disagreements about leadership and governance erupted within the community. These tensions culminated in the First Civil War, or fitna. At its core was the question of succession. Should the leader be chosen from the best qualified, or should leadership remain within the Prophet's family? This disagreement would eventually lead to the most significant schism in Islam, the split between the Sunni and Shia traditions. This tragic period is perhaps most poignantly symbolized by the events of Karbala in 680 CE. Here, Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, along with a small group of family and followers, made a stand against the forces of the ruling caliph. Their tragic end became a foundational event, especially for Shia Muslims, a powerful symbol of martyrdom in the face of injustice. This early political and spiritual divide would shape the Islamic world for centuries to come, creating two major branches of the faith that persist to this day. Out of the turmoil of the First Civil War, a new dynasty emerged. In 661 CE, they established their rule and moved the capital of the Islamic Empire. From the Arabian heartland to the ancient and cosmopolitan city of Damascus, this move symbolized a shift from a patriarchal, desert-based leadership to a more centralized, imperial administration modeled on the sophisticated bureaucracies of the Byzantines and Persians they had conquered. Damascus was transformed into a magnificent imperial capital, a testament to the power and wealth of the new The Umayyad era was a golden age of art and architecture. Its most iconic achievement is the breathtaking Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, built on the Temple Mount. This shrine is not a mosque, but a commemorative building, one of the first major architectural statements of the new Islamic civilization. Its shimmering golden dome and intricate mosaics, blending Byzantine and Sasanian artistic traditions, proclaimed the permanence and glory of Islam in a city holy to Jews and Christians as well. Elsewhere, great mosques were built in Damascus, Cordoba, and Kairouan, each a masterpiece of engineering and artistry that defined a new architectural style. Under the Umayyads, the Arab administration became more sophisticated. Arabic was established as the official language of government, replacing Greek and Persian in the conquered lands. The first purely Islamic coinage was minted, replacing Byzantine and Sasanian coins. This helped to unify the vast empire and solidify a distinct Islamic identity. The expansion also continued at a relentless pace. To the west, Umayyad armies crossed the Strait of Gibraltar into the Iberian Peninsula in 711 CE, establishing a powerful presence in Spain that would last for nearly 800 years. To the east, their armies pushed deep into Central Asia, reaching the borders of China and India. By 750 CE, the Umayyad Caliphate was one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, stretching from Spain to the Indus River, a vast, multicultural realm, united by faith, language, and trade. The foundations laid in the desert of Arabia had now given rise to a truly global civilization. The year is 750. The mighty Umayyad Caliphate, rulers of the Islamic world for nearly a century, crumbles. From the eastern frontier, a new power emerges, fueled by revolution and a promise of change. This is the dawn of the Abbasid dynasty. With their rise, the center of gravity of the Islamic world shifts dramatically eastward. The old capital, Damascus, is left behind. A new city is about to be born on the banks of the Tigris River, a city destined to become the heart of a golden age. Baghdad, imagine a city built from scratch, conceived not just as a capital, but as the center of the world. The second Abbasid Caliph, Al-Mansur, commissions the Round City, a marvel of urban planning. Its perfect circular walls, nearly 2 miles in diameter, enclose a vast administrative and residential complex. At its very heart stands the Golden Gate Palace and the Grand Mosque, symbols of the caliph's spiritual and temporal authority. 4 main gates open to the 4 corners of the empire, welcoming trade and travelers. Canals crisscross the landscape, bringing water and life, while outside the walls, sprawling markets burst with activity. Silks from China, spices from India, ivory from Africa, and furs from the north all find their way to the bustling souks of Baghdad. This isn't just a new capital, it's a statement. Welcome to the Golden Age of Islam. For over a century, Baghdad is the largest, wealthiest, and most intellectually vibrant city on earth. Its population swells to nearly 1 million people. Here, a revolutionary intellectual movement takes flight. In the legendary House of Wisdom, or Beit, scholars of all faiths and backgrounds, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, collaborate on a monumental task: translating the accumulated knowledge of the ancient world. The works of Plato, Aristotle, Euclid, and Galen are meticulously rendered from Greek and Syriac into Arabic. Persian literature and Indian scientific treatises are similarly preserved and studied. This isn't mere translation. It's a process of absorption, critique, and innovation. The knowledge of the ancients becomes the foundation for new discoveries. In Baghdad's hospitals, physicians are not just treating patients. They're writing medical insight, identifying diseases like smallpox and measles, and pioneering new surgical techniques. They develop an understanding of hygiene and quarantine that is centuries ahead of its time. In observatorios, astronomers gaze at the heavens, not just for astrology, but to map the stars with unprecedented accuracy. They calculate the circumference of the Earth, refine astronomical tables, and give us words like azimuth and zenith. They develop algebra, advanced trigonometry, and give the world the Arabic numerals we still use today. From Baghdad, trade routes spread like a web across the known world. Animated maps would show caravans journeying along the Silk Road to China, ships sailing down the coast of Africa, and merchants trading in the ports of the Mediterranean. This vast network doesn't just carry goods, it carries ideas, technologies, and culture, enriching every corner of the Abbasid world and beyond. Baghdad is a beacon of light, a city where commerce and culture, faith and reason flourish side by side. But no golden age lasts forever. By the 10th century, the sheer size of the Abbasid Empire becomes its weakness. The vibrant energy that built Baghdad begins to dissipate from the center. A slow fragmentation begins. While the Caliph in Baghdad remains the symbolic head of the Islamic world, his real political power starts to wane. Provincial governors, once loyal administrators, begin to act like independent rulers, establishing their own hereditary dynasties. In places like Egypt, the Fatimid Caliphate rises as a major Shia rival, challenging Baghdad's authority and building their own magnificent capital in Cairo. A cultural shift is also underway. In the eastern provinces, a Persian cultural revival gains momentum. Poets like Fordowsi begin writing epic poems in the Persian language, celebrating pre-Islamic Iranian history and identity. This isn't a rejection of Islam, but a powerful reassertion of a distinct cultural heritage within the broader Islamic civilization. The universal Arabic culture of the early Abbasid period begins to give way to a more diverse, multicultural landscape. Then, in 945, the Caliph's authority suffers a decisive blow. A powerful clan of Persian Shia warriors, the Buyids, march into Baghdad. They don't depose the Caliph. Instead, they keep him as a figurehead, a source of religious legitimacy, while they wield the real military and political power. The Abbasid Caliph is now a virtual prisoner in his own palace. The glorious city of Al-Mansur is now controlled by foreign warlords. The central power has fractured, setting the stage for the next wave of invaders. The 11th century brings a new, formidable force from the steppes of Central Asia: the Seljuk Turks. Fierce nomadic warriors and recent converts to Sunni Islam, they sweep across Persia and into Mesopotamia. Unlike the Buyids, the Seljuks present themselves as protectors of the Sunni Caliph and restorers of orthodoxy. In 1055, their leader, Tughril Beg, enters Baghdad, The Buyids are ousted, and the Seljuks take their place as the new masters of the empire. Assuming the title of Sultan, which means authority, the Caliph remains, but power now rests with the Turkish Sultan. The Seljuks are more than just warriors. They are empire. Under their rule, a new period of stability and military expansion begins. They are patrons of art, architecture, and learning, establishing famous madrasus, or schools, across the empire. Their military prowess soon brings them into direct conflict with the Byzantine Empire. In 1071, at the Battle of Manzikert, in eastern Anatolia, the Seljuk Sultan Alp Arslan achieves a stunning and decisive victory, capturing the Byzantine emperor himself. This battle is a turning point in world history. It shatters the Byzantine defenses in Anatolia, opening the region to mass migration by Turkic tribes. Over the next few decades, the demographic and cultural landscape of Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, is transformed forever. It becomes a new Turkish heartland. This westward expansion of Seljuk power sends shockwaves through the Christian world. Alarmed by the loss of Anatolia and the Seljuk control of Jerusalem, the Byzantine emperor appeals to the Pope in Rome for military aid. This appeal ignites a fire in Europe. In 1095, Pope Urban II calls for a holy war, an armed pilgrimage to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule. This is the beginning of the Crusades. Animated maps would show waves of European knights and soldiers marching east, a collision of worlds on a scale not seen for centuries. The First Crusade succeeds in capturing Jerusalem in 1099, establishing a series of Crusader states along the Mediterranean coast. For the next 2 centuries, the region becomes a battleground. The fragmented Muslim world is initially slow to respond, but the constant threat of the Crusader presence eventually sparks a powerful counter-movement. A new generation of leaders emerges, dedicated to jihad, or holy struggle, against the invaders. The most famous of these leaders is Salah al-Din, known in the West as Saladin. A Kurdish warrior who rises to become the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, he unites the Muslim forces of the region under his banner. A brilliant military strategist and a man renowned for his chivalry, Saladin dedicates his life to driving the Crusaders out. His campaign culminates in 1187 at the Battle of Hattin, where he annihilates the main Crusader army. Shortly after, Saladin marches on Jerusalem. After a brief siege, the city surrenders, where the Crusaders had massacred the city's inhabitants 90 years earlier. Saladin forbids any killing and allows the Christian residents to leave peacefully after paying a ransom. The recapture of Jerusalem is Saladin's crowning achievement and a monumental moment in the history of the Crusades. It sends shockwaves back through Europe and triggers the Third Crusade, pitting Saladin against his famous rival, Richard the Lionheart. Though the Crusader presence would linger on the coast for another century, the tide had turned. Saladin had restored Muslim pride and redrawn the map of the Middle East. But the Abbasid Caliphate, though it had survived all these upheavals, was a shadow of its former self, unaware that its greatest catastrophe was yet to come. Galloping from the east, the age of Baghdad was drawing to a close. In the early 13th century, from the vast, windswept steppes of Central Asia, a storm was gathering. A new power was rising, one that would reshape the known world. These were the Mongols, united under a single, visionary leader, Genghis Khan. Their mounted warriors, unmatched in speed and skill, were about to unleash a wave of conquest unlike anything seen before. Their empire, forged in the saddle, would stretch from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. Imagine the map of Asia in the early 1200s. Now watch as this Mongol wave crashes westward. Their first major target in the Islamic world was the powerful Khwarezmian Empire, which stretched across modern-day Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. The Shah of Khwarezm made a fatal mistake. He executed Mongol envoys. This act of defiance sealed his empire's doom. Genghis Khan's response was swift and utterly devastating. Cities that had stood for centuries, like Samarkand and Bukhara, were reduced to rubble. Libraries were burned, scholars were killed, and sophisticated irrigation systems that had sustained life for generations were destroyed. The Mongols weren't just conquering territory, they were erasing entire civilizations. The momentum was unstoppable. Decades later, Under Genghis Khan's grandson, the Mongol horde moved toward the very center of the Islamic world. Baghdad. For 500 years, Baghdad had been the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, a glittering metropolis of science, culture, and art. It was home to the House of Wisdom, a legendary library that held the accumulated knowledge of the ancient and Islamic worlds. In 1258, the unthinkable happened. Hulag's army laid siege to the city. After a short, brutal fight, Baghdad fell. What followed was a week of destruction so complete it's hard to comprehend. The Tigris River was said to have run black with the ink of countless books thrown into its waters, and then red with the blood of the city's inhabitants. The last Abbasid caliph was executed, and an era came to a sudden, violent end. The psychological shockwave rippled across the entire Muslim world. It seemed as though the end of days had arrived, with the Abbasid Caliphate extinguished and much of Persia and Iraq under their control. The Mongols set their sights on the final prize, Egypt and the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Their path seemed clear. Who could possibly stop them? The answer came from an unexpected quarter. In Egypt, a new and unique power had emerged: the Mamluk Sultanate. The Mamluks were a warrior class, unlike any other. They were originally slaves, mostly of Turkic origin, purchased as boys and rigorously trained in warfare and Islamic studies. Upon graduation, they were freed and became an elite military caste, utterly loyal to their commanders. They were the ultimate soldiers, and they now ruled Egypt. In 1260, the Mongol army, having just taken Damascus, marched south into Palestine. The Mamluk Sultan Qutuz knew that this was a battle for survival. He gathered his forces and marched to meet the invaders. The two armies clashed at a place called Ain, or the Spring of Goliath. It was here, in this valley, with biblical echoes, that history would pivot. The Mamluks, led by the brilliant General Baybars, employed clever tactics. They used a feigned retreat to lure the overconfident Mongol force into a trap. For the first time, a Mongol army faced an enemy that was their equal in discipline and cavalry skill. The Mamluk heavy cavalry charged, and the seemingly invincible Mongol aura was shattered. The battle was a decisive Mamluk victory. The Mongol advance was halted, not just for a day, but forever. Egypt, and with it the Islamic heartlands of North Africa and the holy cities of the Hejaz, were saved. Ain Jalut was a turning point, proving that the Mongols could be beaten and preserving a vital center of Islamic civilization. The story doesn't end with a Mongol defeat. However, it enters a new, fascinating chapter. The vast Mongol Empire began to fracture into successor states known as Khanate, and here, something remarkable happened. Over the next few generations, the Mongol rulers of the Ilkhanate in Persia and the Golden Horde in the north began to convert to the very religion they had once sought to destroy. They embraced Islam. These new Muslim Mongol rulers became great patrons of art, architecture, and science. They rebuilt the cities their ancestors had sacked and, crucially, they secured the Silk Road, creating an era of unprecedented trade and cultural exchange between East and West, known as the Pax Mongolica. But peace in Central Asia was fleeting. At the end of the 14th century, another conqueror, claiming descent from Genghis Khan, emerged from the region. His name was Timur, known to the West as Tamerlane. Timur was a complex figure, devout Muslim and a patron of the arts on one hand, and a ruthless conqueror who built pyramids of skulls on the other. He saw himself as the restorer of the Mongol Empire and unleashed a new wave of conquests, carving out a massive empire centered on his magnificent capital. He sacked Delhi, defeated the Ottoman Sultan, and terrorized the region. Yet, under his Timurid dynasty, Central Asia and Iran experienced a brilliant cultural renaissance. Cities like Herat and Samarkand became centers of exquisite miniature painting, poetry, and breathtaking architecture that still inspire awe today. Timur's legacy was one of both destruction and incredible artistic revival. While Timur's empire rose and fell, a new power was steadily growing on the western edge of the Islamic world in Anatolia. These were the Ottomans, a Turkish tribe that started as a small state on the frontier of the Byzantine Empire. What set the Ottomans apart and fueled their incredible expansion was their mastery of a revolutionary new technology: gunpowder. They adopted cannons and muskets, creating disciplined infantry units, called janissaries, who could shatter the walls of medieval fortresses and break the charge of traditional cavalry. Armed with this new power, the Ottomans swept through the Balkans and pushed ever closer to the ultimate prize, Constantinople, the thousand-year-old capital of the Byzantine Empire. In 1453, the young Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed II, laid siege to the city. He brought with him enormous cannons, some so large they could fire massive stone bowls over a mile. For weeks, they pounded the legendary walls of Constantinople. Finally, on May 29th, the Ottoman forces breached the defenses. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across Europe and marked the definitive end of the Roman Empire. Mehmed, now known as the Conqueror, made the city his new capital. Istanbul, and the Hagia Sophia was converted into a grand mosque. The Ottomans were now a world empire. The fall of Constantinople ushered in a new era. The world had changed. The age of the horse nomad was over. The age of gunpowder had begun. In the centuries that followed, three great Islamic gunpowder empires would come to dominate a vast stretch of the globe. In the West, the Ottoman Empire controlled the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the Balkans. In the center and Persia, the Safavid dynasty rose, establishing Shia Islam as the state religion, and creating a distinct cultural and political identity. And to the east, the Mughal Empire conquered the Indian subcontinent, ruling over a vast and diverse population and producing some of the world's most beautiful architecture, like the Taj Mahal. From the ashes of the Mongol invasions, the Islamic world had not only survived, but had been reborn. It entered a new golden age, defined by powerful empires, vibrant culture, and the thunderous roar of cannons. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey through history fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. See you next time.